This is not getting discussed on the mainstream media. Not only are they wrong legally, but the fact that they would do this is outrageous. This is an overreaction and really nonsense. How would you react if this was your son or your daughter? It's the offense of knowing the truth. It's the offense of having an alternate worldview. Saying God bless you to someone is not a violation of the law.
Hey, welcome to the broadcast, everyone. We're thrilled that our Facebook and Periscope audience are here. Thrilled that you all are listening to us on radio across the country, and also thrilled that our television audiences are here as well. We have been talking about the situation with Islamic indoctrination in the schools. We're going to continue that conversation. But there's been an interesting development. That is Ben Carson, who is a neurosurgeon from Johns Hopkins running for president. He's scoring about number 2 right now in the polls, made a statement. Let me play it for everybody right now.
Should your faith matter to voters?
Well, I guess it depends on what that faith is. If it's inconsistent with the values and principles of America, then of course it should matter.
He's getting a lot of flack for that comment, but let me give you some interesting information, folks. I wrote a book called Sharia in America a couple of years ago. When a devout Muslim tells you that Sharia law is consistent with the United States Constitution, here's what they mean. They know that the Constitution can be amended. So what Ben Carson said about Sharia and the Constitution is correct, legally speaking. Sharia is a universal law within Islam. It governs worldwide affairs. It's global in scope. It's not subject to a nation state. So to answer the question, can women testify under Sharia law? Prosecution must generally prove its case by either testimony of witnesses or the admissions of the defendant. Generally, witnesses' testimony is only admitted if it comes from 2 male witnesses or 1 male and 2 female witnesses. So for a woman to testify, you'd have to have 2 women and a male. So it's either 2 male witnesses or 1 male and 2 female witnesses. Can female witnesses testify by themselves? No. Can 2 testify by themselves? No. That's the law under Sharia law. So is that consistent with the United States Constitution? Absolutely, positively not. Let's go ahead and take some phone calls.
That's right. We got a quick comment coming in from Facebook, though. Jill said, ACLJ is my full support. Thank you, Jay, for what you do. Thanks for standing up for the evils in this world. Keep up the good fight. God, it's with you. And besides signing the petition, what else can we do?
Right now, of course, signing the petition is key. But look, I mean, Ben Carson, Jordan, is getting a lot of flack for this. But the fact is, I'm reading one of the hadiths. This is the teachings that explain Islam. And it explains that the testimony of a woman, and this is a direct quote, right, from the hadith. This is from the hadith. The testimony of a woman is equal to half that of a man because of the supposed, this is what they say, a deficiency of a woman's mind. So that's, Jordan, it's the inequality, and no matter however Chuck Todd tried to phrase it, the fact of the matter is it was a ridiculous question, but it brings up, if this is the nature of the debate, we have got a serious problem in the United States of America.
That's absolutely right, and that somehow it's a shaming idea. For one, it's not even relevant, so there's no one running. This debate is made up. There's no one even thinking about running that would meet this criteria. So it's certainly not going to happen during this presidential race. And it's a complete hypothetical. And second, when you actually look at Sharia law and the politics and governance of Sharia in majority Muslim countries, absolutely not. We don't want those kind of laws or rules in the United States. It should be pretty simple, and I've never understood why on this issue they are so politically correct, they're self-destructive, that liberals don't get it. People like Chuck Todd would not be allowed on air under Sharia law.
Correct. Absolutely right. Let's take a phone call.
All right, let's go to Sam, who's calling from Washington, D.C. Sam, you're on Jay Sekulow Live. You're on the air.
Hi, Sam.
Okay, Jay, absolutely not. Sharia law should not be a part of, it's a byproduct of what the Constitution is all about anyway. It gives them the freedom to bring in their thing, but they got to remember that the Constitution was written because of things like Sharia law, trying to rule people against their inalienable rights and their inalienable freedoms.
Well, you bring up a really good point. Our Constitution, we have a no religious oaths clause of the U.S. Constitution. It says this, but no religious, I'm reading it, it's Jordan pointed to it, Article 6, Paragraph 3, no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust in the United States. Makes perfect sense. You don't have to be Jewish, Christian, Muslim to hold office in the United States. That's a different question than what Chuck Todd asked, which is Sharia compatible with the United States Constitution? Answer is no, period. It's not. I've written a book about it. We've got pamphlets about it. Well, let's get some comments.
Yeah, we got a comment coming in from Iona, who's listening from Canada right now. She has Sharia law is no place in the Western world. Stay strong, America.
We appreciate
And we
that.
also had Jessica, which kind of ties into the comments you have. Where do I find information to read specifics of Sharia law without having to go to Muslim websites?
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to get our team to get up our Sharia law booklet up on the up on our website at aclj.org. We'll have links to it on social media as well. We've got a little bit of a discussion in our book, Rise of ISIS, and we've got a whole book, literally, hardback book on Sharia law in America that we may get published and out again because it's obviously a huge issue. Sign that petition. Let's stop this in the schools, folks. It's now national news in the presidential debate, but we need to stop it in the schools. ACLJ.org or 1-877-989-2255. That's ACLJ.org or 1-877-989-2255. I'm going to urge you to take action right now. We want you to stop the indoctrinations of the school. Help us do that. We're getting great results. We're winning in Tennessee. We got a fight in Wisconsin and Florida, and probably it looks like in California. ACLJ.org or 1-877-989-2255. Back with more in your comments in just a moment.
Imagine your child or grandchild forced to recite the Islamic conversion creed in school. It's happening in Tennessee. Public middle school students are being taught to write, quote, Allah is the only God. Their assignments actually explain how to convert to Islam. It's Islamic indoctrination right here in our schools. It's outrageous and unconstitutional, but it's happening nationwide. Some students are assigned, quote, to pretend you are a Muslim. Others are taught to pray Islamic prayers and practice Islamic rituals. At the ACLJ, we're taking direct action. We're fighting to defend religious freedom in school and aggressively battling to stop Islamic indoctrination. Send a powerful message to these schools today. Sign our petition. Stop Islamic indoctrination in our schools. Call now, 1-877-989-2255 or add your name online, aclj.org.
Hey, welcome back to the broadcast, everyone. So Ben Carson's getting a lot of flack for these words. I want you to listen to Chuck Todd's first question about Sharia and the Constitution, then he gives his answer.
Do you believe that Islam is consistent with the Constitution?
No, I don't. I do not. I would not advocate that we put a Muslim in charge of this nation. I absolutely would not agree with that.
So here's what I would say to Chuck Todd. I would say, Chuck Todd, do you believe that Sharia law is consistent with the United States Constitution? And by the way, Chuck, how many folks are actually running that believe this? That, believe in Islam? None. But you decided to ask Dr. Carson that question. And I want to ask the question back to the media. Do you believe that your rights would be protected under Sharia law, under Islamic law? And let me tell you about a free press. Ask them in Iran. Ask Jason Rezaian, who's in jail in Iran from the Washington Post, how free it is. That's what you have to deal with.
We have Nancy, who just came in and said, say no to Sharia law and no Islamic teaching in our schools. This is America. We also have another person that came in that said, again, it's kind of the same comments. This is in God we trust, but there should be no Sharia law in the United States of America. And so similar comments are kind of rolling in continually. People are genuinely upset about this and want to make sure that this doesn't get spun out of control to where this becomes a real issue for Dr. Carson and the other candidates.
It should not be. Jordan, what are the other candidates commenting on this?
I haven't seen a lot of commentary yet, and I think that most have probably realized this was just a kind of a gotcha question, not reality, not realistic. It has nothing to do with anyone in the race right now. And so the idea that you now have got to commentate on something that doesn't exist, again, it's one of those questions just to try to distract. But the truth is, I think it has backfired to a sense that a lot of people realize the issue there. The issue is that if you take political Islam, it is not consistent with the U.S. law.
Period. And let Chuck Todd ask Ben Carson a question about Muslim for Congress, and listen to Dr. Carson's answer, number 3.
Would you ever consider voting for a Muslim for Congress?
Congress is a different story, but it depends on who that Muslim is and what their policies are, just as it depends on what anybody else says. If there's somebody who's of any faith, but they say things and their life has been consistent with things that will elevate this nation and make it possible for everybody to succeed and bring peace and harmony, then I'm with them.
So there you have it. That's the rest of Dr. Carson's statement. So is Islam consistent with the Constitution? Answer is no, he was right.
We got a lot of comments coming in, 2 or 3 back-to-back, of people that are just a little unclear of why the Sharia law they even want in this country. One person put, I don't understand why Muslims flee countries that enforce strict Sharia law only to establish it here. We had another comment that said...
Most Muslims that leave Islamic countries with Sharia law, they want to leave.
Yes, most Muslims don't want to impose Sharia law. Right. They don't want to live under Sharia law. So that is the truth, but it's a question that really should never have been asked. But let's go ahead and take a phone call. We've had a lot of people waiting on hold for a long time.
Long time.
Matt, you're calling from Chattanooga, Tennessee. You're online.
Hi, Matt.
I think the real problem is that so many people are just so uneducated about world religions, and that might be the biggest battle right there, because I studied Islam in college and realized real quick that there's no such thing as a moderate Muslim or an extreme Muslim. There's either a devout and faithful or lukewarm.
Yeah, and the ones that are not, the ones that quote would be moderate would not be considered Muslim or Islamic by other Muslims. By the way, we wrote a book called Shariah in America, and this was written, I think, 4 years ago, that goes into this in great deal. It was sent to every state legislator in the United States of America and also members of the House and Senate. And it's exactly what and now it's a topic, I would not have thought, actually, when we wrote this book, I'm going to get the year for you, when we put this book together in 2011, I would not have thought that this would be a topic on a presidential debate, but it is. And this tells you how this issue has, Jordan, permeated even the body politic now.
Yeah, that's right. That suddenly I'll have to confront this question. I think it's a question of really, you can't just ask that broad of a question and get the answer. There are people. Yep. If they're a Muslim in modern day world that wants to take their faith, put it into practice into the U.S. law, then absolutely not. And that's the Islam that we deal with as a country, and we've been dealing with as a nation even before 9/11, but certainly since the 9/11 attacks. And this, whether it's the Taliban's version or Iran's version or the Saudis' version or ISIS' version or Hezbollah's version or Hamas, and the list goes on, or even some which are in the Pacific, the Indonesian version, it's absolutely not consistent with our governing codes.
Here's what I said. Not only is Sharia incompatible with the basic concept of the United States citizenship and nationality oaths because they could not take the loyalty oath, but it's also fundamentally inconsistent with both U.S. civil and criminal law and the constitutional guarantees inherent in the American system. If you look at the nationality, the oath you take when you become a citizen of the United States, a devout Muslim could not really do it and say it honestly, because here's what you say. I hereby declare on oath that I absolutely and entirely renounce and abjure all allegiance and fidelity to any foreign prince, potentate, state or sovereignty of which I have heretofore been a subject or citizen of, that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the laws of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I will bear arms on behalf of the United States when required by law, that I will perform non-combatant services in the armed forces, and on it goes. I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, so help me God. That's the citizenship oath. Islam is an allegiance to a global Islamic state. It is not state dependent. It's global in scope. So the universality of political Islam, says you're not going to be able to really, in truth, sign these oaths. This is the nature of the real question. That's what I would turn on Ask Chuck Todd. Do you think you could broadcast freely in Islamic countries that apply Sharia law? You think you'd have Meet the Press? Chuck Todd? The answer is no. So why don't we turn that around on the media? ACLJ.org or 1-877-989-2255 to take a stand on this. ACLJ.org or 877-989-2255 to make sure there's no indoctrination of this in the public schools again. 1-877-989-2255 or ACLJ.org.
All right, we're going to go back to the phone. Sue is calling from Sacramento, California. You're on the air.
Hi, Sue.
Hi. I think it would be good if instead of talking about Islam as being a religion like Christianity or Judaism, we would talk about it as being a religion and a political system.
Well, Jordan used the phrase, and Jordan, you used the phrase political Islam. Just define that for everybody.
Well, that's exactly what the caller's talking about, is the idea that Islam, not just Sharia to govern yourself and self-morals or your household, but Sharia to govern society at all levels, from executive leadership to, and usually that's rule by one supreme kind of leader, to criminal codes, civil codes, family law, how the economic system works, because things like interest are not allowed under Sharia law. Right. And so the medical systems and judgment calls, all of that, the women's rights, minority rights, those of outside freedom of speech, all that being governed by Sharia. That's what we talk about when we talk about political Sharia or political Islam.
There's an interesting comment that's just come in via Facebook. It's Danny. You got it right there, Logan.
I got it. It says, in the case of the situation, this is from Danny from Facebook. So in the case of the situation in Tennessee, how do we keep this from happening in our towns in the first place?
Okay, so school boards. What we're finding out, it's not so much the textbook. It's how the school boards and the individual teachers are applying the law. So here's what we're doing. We've sent, in Tennessee, for instance, we've sent a Freedom of Information Act request to all 146 counties in Tennessee to find out exactly how they're teaching these curriculums. We'll do the same thing in your state if you've got a problem there. So we've got a legal system in place to respond to this, and it's going to be school board by school board. We looked at the textbook, and we do not believe that the textbooks are the problem here. We believe that it's the implementation of that curriculum, and the State Department of Education in Tennessee said, don't blame us, blame the local school district here. So that's part and parcel of what's actually happening, and that's why we're going to really fight back on it. It's going to be county by county, state by state. We've got a team of lawyers here at the ACLJ dedicated to doing this.
That's right. And as we go into our final segment of the broadcast coming up in just about a minute and a half, we want to get your questions or comments. Join us on Facebook right now, facebook.com/JSekulow, or just go to Jay Sekulow's page, or on Periscope. We're broadcasting live. You can watch us and also interact with the show. Get your questions or comments in, and I'm happy to take them on the air.
Let me say this also for our Facebook and Periscope audience. You're seeing it a little bit differently today. It's because we are utilizing, and this is one of the things that's unique about the ACLJ, we are utilizing every platform we have to get this message out. So that is radio. We're on hundreds of stations from coast to coast. Satellite radio, Sirius XM. We're on Facebook. We're on Periscope. We're on Christian television. And that's all happening simultaneously right now. I wish we could pan and see the what's going on in the studio. We've got a lot of people in a small space because we want to get this information out. Folks, we've crossed 190,000 signatures. We're going to get to 200,000 to stop the Islamic indoctrination in schools. Go to ACLJ.org or 1-877-989-2255, ACLJ.org, or 1-877-989-2255 to sign on to that petition. My question to Chuck Todd. Chuck Todd, do you believe you can conduct Meet the Press in Saudi Arabia, in Iran, in Turkey? You believe that? Ask Jason Rezaian from the Washington Post whether he thinks there's freedom of the press under Islamic law. ACLJ.org or 1-877-989-2255 to sign that petition. I encourage you to do it now. Again, ACLJ.org or 877-989-2255. Back with more in a moment.
Imagine your child or grandchild forced to recite the Islamic conversion creed in school. It's happening in Tennessee. Public middle school students are being taught to write, quote, Allah is the only God. Their assignments actually explain how to convert to Islam. It's Islamic indoctrination right here in our schools. It's outrageous and unconstitutional, but it's happening nationwide. Some students are assigned, quote, to pretend you are a Muslim. Others are taught to pray Islamic prayers and practice Islamic rituals. At the ACLJ, we're taking direct action. We're fighting to defend religious freedom in school and aggressively battling to stop Islamic indoctrination. Send a powerful message to these schools today. Sign our petition. Stop Islamic indoctrination in our schools. Call now, 1-877-989-2255, or add your name online, aclj.org.
All right, welcome back to the broadcast, everyone. So Ben Carson getting flack for saying the truth about the consistency of Islamic law and the Constitution, and I would have just turned that, as I said, I would have turned that right back on Chuck Todd. Let's go ahead and take some. We got a lot of phone calls here. We're in the last segment of the broadcast. Let's go through these and comments from Facebook and Periscope as well.
We'll still take your comments, but if you want to call in now. Last chance to do that for the broadcast today. Let's go to Marty, who's calling from Douglasville, Georgia. You're on the air.
Hi, Marty.
How you doing?
Yes, sir.
Jay, I love you. I love your show, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, you know, I have a problem. I have some friends that are that do under this religion, and that people don't understand, especially the women. If this indoctrination comes about, women, they don't stand the side of man like what you would see in the United States.
Well, I said that. You're absolutely right, Marty. And Jordan, the testifying in court is the best example of their view of inequality of women under Sharia law. I mean, that is the prime example. It's not hard to explain. It's for every man, you have to have 2 women. But women's vote counts half, or testimony counts half.
When you're talking about witnesses in a court setting, of course, in some of the Sunni countries, women can't drive, can't hold most jobs. In some of the Shia countries, they may be able to do so, but still face tremendous. They're told exactly what to wear, how to act. The domestic violence is a huge problem, and most of the court systems are handled by religious courts, not by secular courts, which we are used to in America. That takes religion out of, it's not about consulting a religious scholar when it comes to a criminal case.
All right, let's go right back to the phones and get more comments coming in also via Periscope and Facebook.
I'll go to Rose, who's been watching on Facebook. Rose, thanks for watching, and she's calling from Mesa, Arizona, and she's on the air. Rose, thanks for watching and being a part of the show.
Hey, Rose, thanks for calling in.
Sure, no problem. I just was wondering, in the spirit of education of the Sharia law, that what will the law for the gay community, how does that affect them? And
I mean, terrible. I mean, whatever one's view is on the issue of same-sex marriage, it's a crime in these under Sharia law. I mean, punishable by death. So this is why I don't understand why the left is marching with the Shariists. I mean, or why Chuck Todd would even make that statement. So, Rosie, bring up a really good question. There is no such thing as equality under Sharia law, period. Doesn't exist. And I don't understand why the left is marching to this drummer. It makes no sense. They'll be the first people they kill will be the ones marching with them.
That's right. Everyone modern liberalisms in general are probably some of the most things under attack when it comes to Sharia law, but for some reason, it's the one issue that keeps getting brought up. It's unthinkable. It doesn't make any sense why this would be the case.
Why is this topic, Jordan, a topic of at Meet the Press on a presidential candidate who is right now number 2 in the polls?
Because liberals want to upset the Republican nomination process. I mean, Chuck Todd, it's absurd. Does he think he would have his show in Iran or Saudi Arabia or throughout the Muslim world? No. And his views they disagree with. It's the extreme political correctness. And again, it's a gotcha question that. Honestly, if Chuck Todd was answering honestly, would his show be on in the Muslim world? He'd have to say no. But of course, he's not having to answer that question.
And I will tell you, folks, the answer to the question is no. Sharia law is not consistent with the United States Constitution. Let's take another phone call.
Comment on also that says you can't support Islam and Sharia law and women's rights. It's not. You can't have one. You can't have both.
They don't exist. No. They cannot coexist. The comment from Facebook is absolutely correct.
Like I said, that's the same for gay rights. That's the same for any sort of rights in general. When it comes to people that are different in general, seem to be obviously under attack via this type of situation. But let's go to the phones. We'll get to the last calls of the day. We got a few more lined up. Mark's calling from Vegas. You're on the line.
Hi, Mark.
Yeah, how you doing today?
Good.
Listen, I think everybody needs to take a deep breath. I think that I don't think Sharia law, anything like that insane is going to happen in this country. But I do applaud the fact that you bring it out in the open. We have these isolated cases of people, being taught, whatever.
Well, we've had court cases where judges have applied Sharia law into a court proceeding, especially in family law. So that's why I think you got to be on guard. Why is this a national topic, Mark? Because Chuck Todd on Meet the Press made it one.
Need to be on guard. There's no question.
Yep.
But my comment really is this about Dr. Carson, who I like. I don't know how much I think he would make a good president or not, but I believe that the media took his comments out of context. I believe that he was giving an opinion. He wasn't saying, if I was president, I would make it illegal for a Muslim to run for president.
That's not what he said. He said he's not comfortable with someone that is Islamic, that believes in Sharia law, because he said, is Islam compatible with the Constitution? And this was, let's play. Should we play? Do we have time to play it? Let's say, here's the context exactly what was said.
Should a president's faith matter? Should your faith matter to voters?
Well, I guess it depends on what that faith is. If it's inconsistent with the values and principles of America, then of course it should matter. But if it fits within the realm of America and consistent with the Constitution, no problem.
And then the follow-up question was this. This was the follow-up question.
Do you believe that Islam is consistent with the Constitution?
And let me answer that. The answer is no, it's not. So he didn't, I mean, this was the nature of this was, as Jordan said, an absolute setup. Let's try to grab two more questions. And I know we got a lot of people on Facebook and Periscope right now. Let's see what we can get.
I appreciate all of them for coming. Thanks for joining us. Let's go to the phones. Darlene, who's calling from Washington, D.C. Darlene, probably going to be the last call of the day. Make it good.
Yeah, hello. This comment is for Hillary Clinton.
Yep.
She always says that women in this country don't have enough rights. How would she feel? How would she like living under Shariah law?
Not very well, Darlene, is the truth of the matter, and you're exactly correct. It's what I keep saying. I don't understand why the left is marching down this path, Jordan, with the Islamists. I don't understand. I mean, Logan said it too. These liberal groups, this should be the last group they're marching down with.
That from time to time, and definitely in media, you're seeing that actually some turn when it comes, especially like what you consider to be the Hollywood elite. You're seeing some of them actually switching and moving to a little bit on our side in that
yeah,
matter.
Jordan, go ahead too.
Yeah, it's absurd. The way we know America is this free place where you may even see things you don't like that you're offended by, where people have this very broad right to express themselves in the public square and through their free speech, and a legal system which is designed to protect that. Sharia is the opposite.
Exact opposite. Mirror opposite, I would say, of the United States Constitution.
For the last comment coming in from Periscope, it said, yeah, there's nothing compatible with Islam and Christianity and, of course, the Constitution.
Yeah, well, there you have it. So the reality is that the answer to Chuck Todd's question was, no, Islam is not compatible with the United States Constitution. And I've written a book about it. We've discussed it. We're going to get that up. We'll make sure that's available to people. ACLJ.org or 1-877-989-2255 if you want to stand with these students. Let me encourage you to do that. ACLJ.org or 1-877-989-2255. For you to say no to this indoctrination in the public schools, you can have a big voice on this. It makes a big difference. We've got some wins coming already out of Tennessee. ACLJ.org or 1-877-989-2255. And by the way, like us on Facebook, share us on Facebook. And we're out. It's very important to get this information out, folks. Get on our social media. I've got a page. ACLJ has a page. Even the J Sekulow Band has a page. Like our Facebook pages. Follow me on Twitter. We'll talk to you tomorrow. We got a lot more ahead. And thank you, Facebook and Periscope, for watching in. Television audience, thank you as well on radio. Couldn't do it without you. Talk to you tomorrow.
Imagine your child or grandchild forced to recite the Islamic conversion creed in school. It's happening in Tennessee. Public middle school students are being taught to write, quote, Allah is the only God. Their assignments actually explain how to convert to Islam. It's Islamic indoctrination right here in our schools. It's outrageous and unconstitutional, but it's happening nationwide. Some students are assigned, quote, to pretend you are a Muslim. Others are taught to pray Islamic prayers and practice Islamic rituals. At the ACLJ, we're taking direct action. We're fighting to defend religious freedom in school and aggressively battling to stop Islamic indoctrination. Send a powerful message to these schools today. Sign our petition. Stop Islamic indoctrination in our schools. Call now, 1-877-989-2255, or add your name online, aclj.org.